Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, entitled Liberation, Chapter 6, entitled The Downfall of Subal Muni. I'm going to read the overview that Srila Prabhupada gives, and then we're going to read from verse 1 to 3. Text number 2 is on the board, so we chant this together. So, the downfall of Subal Muni. After describing the descendants of Maharaj Ambarish, Sukadev Goswami described all the kings from Shashada to Mandhata. And in this connection, he also described how the great sage Subal married the daughters of Mandhata. Maharaj Ambarish had 3 sons, named Virupa, Ketuman, and Shambhu. The sons of Virupa was Prishadashwa, and his son was Ratithara. Ratithara has no sons, but when he requested the favor of the great sage Angira, the sage begot several sons in the womb of Ratithara's wife. When the sons were born, they became the dynasty of Angira, Rishi, and of Ratithara. The son of Manu was Ishwaku, who had 100 sons, of whom Bhikukshi, Nimi, and Dandaka were the eldest. The sons of Maharaj Ishwaku became kings in different parts of the world. Because of violating sacrificial rules and regulations, one of these sons, Bhikukshi, was banished from the kingdom. By the mercy of Vashishta and the power of mystic yoga, Maharaj Ishwaku obtained liberation after giving up his material body. When Maharaj Ishwaku expired, his son Bhikukshi returned and took charge of the kingdom. He performed various types of sacrifices, and thus he pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This Bhikukshi later becomes celebrated as Shashada. Bhikukshi's sons fought with the demons for the sake of the demigods. And because of his valuable service, he became famous as Puranjaya, Indrabaha, and Kakutsta. The son of Puranjaya was Anena, and the son of Anena was Prithu, and the son of Prithu was Vishwagandhi. The son of Vishwagandhi was Chandra. The son of Chandra was Yuvanashwa, and his son was Sravashta, who constructed Sravatashti Puri. The son of Sravashta was Brihadashwa. Brihadashwa's son was Kubalajashwa. Brihadashwa's son Kubalajashwa killed a demon named Dumdu. And thus he became celebrated as Dundumara, the killer of Dundu. The son of the killer of Dundu were Dridashwa, Kapilashwa, and Bhadrashwa. He also had thousands of other sons, but they burned to ashes in the fire emanating from Dundu. The son of Dridashwa was Hariashwa. The son of Hariashwa was Nikumba. The son of Nikumba was Bahulashra, and the son of Bahulashra was Krishashra. The son of Krishashra was Senajit, and his son was Juvanashra. Juvanashra married 100 wives, but he had no sons, and therefore he entered the forest. In the forest, the sages performed a sacrifice known as Indrajagya on his behalf. Once, however, the king became so thirsty in the forest that he drank the water kept for performing the yajna. Consequently, after some time, a son came forth from the right side of his abdomen. The son, who was very beautiful, was crying to drink breast milk, and Indra gave the child his index finger to suck. Thus the son became known as Mandata. In due course of time, Juvanashra achieved perfection by performing austerities. Thereafter, Mandata became the emperor and ruler of the earth, which consists of 7 islands. Thieves and rogues were very much afraid of this powerful king, and therefore the king was known as Trashatdashu, meaning one who is very fearful to rogues and thieves. Mandata begot sons in the womb of his wife, Bindumati. These sons were Purukutsa, Ambarisha, and Muchukunda. These 3 sons had 50 sisters, all of whom became wives of the great sage known as Saubari. In this connection, Sukadev Goswami described the history of Saubari Muni, who because of sensual agitation caused by fish, fell from his yoga and wanted to marry all the daughters of Mandata for sexual pleasure. Later, Saubari Muni became very regretful. Thus, he accepted the order of Vanaprastha, performed very severe austerities, and thus obtained perfection. In this regard, Sukadev Goswami described how Saubari Muni's wife also became perfect. Text number 1. I read the Sanskrit and the translation, then we go to 2 here. Sri Sukha Uvacha Virupa Ketu Manchambhur Ambarisha Shutastrajaha Virupa Prishadasyo Bhud Tatputrastu Rathithara. Translation. Sukadev Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, Ambarish had 3 sons named Virupa, Ketuman, and Shambhu. From Virupa came a son named Prisadaswa, and from Prisadaswa came a son named Ratithara. Text number 2, we read together. Ratitarasya prajasya Bharjajam tantaberitata Angiraja najam asa Brahma barchas vishta sutam Ratitarasya parajasya Bharyajam tantabertita Angiraja najam asa Brahma bachas vinashutam Ratitarasya prajasya Bharjajam tantabertitaha Angiraja najam asha Brahma barchas vinashutam Please chant. Ratitarasya of Ratitara, Aprajasya, who had no sons, Badiyajam, unto his wife, Tantave, for increasing offsprings, Artitaha, being requested, Angiraha, the great sage Angira, Janajam Asha, caused to take birth, Brahma Bachasvinaha, who had Brahminical qualities, Sutam, sons. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ratitara had no sons, and therefore he requested the great sage Angira to beget sons for him. Because of this request, Angira begot sons in the womb of Ratitara's wife. All these sons were born with Brahminical prowess. Purport. In the Vedic age, a man was sometimes called upon to beget sons in the womb of a lesser man's wife for the sake of better progeny. In such an instance, the woman is compared to an agricultural field. A person possessing an agricultural field may employ another person to produce food grains from it. But because the grains are produced from the land, they are considered the property of the owner of the land. Similarly, a woman was sometimes allowed to be impregnated by someone other than her husband. But the sons born of her would then become her husband's sons. Such sons were called Chetrajata. Because Ratitara has no sons, he took advantage of this method. Text number 3. Ete Chetra Pashutavai Punastwangira Shasmritaha Ratitara Nampravara Shetropetta Dvijatayaha. Translation. Having been born from the womb of Ratitara's wife, all the sons were known as the dynasty of Ratitara, but because they were born from the semen of Angira, they were also known as the dynasty of Angira. Among all the progeny of Ratitara, these sons were the most prominent because, owing to their birth, they were considered Brahmanas. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the meaning of Dvijatayaha as mixed caste, indicating a mixture of Brahmana and Kshatriya. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Shrimate Roba Swami. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Satarine. Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami continue. If we recall, at the end of the 8th canto, Maharaj Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami to explain more of the dynasty of Swayambhuva, no, not Swayambhuva, what was the name of the Manu? That Satyavrata became then Vaishashatamanu. Vaishashatamanu, correct. So, the end of the 8th canto is the pastime of Lord Matsya and King Satyavrata. So, King Satyavrata was given the full blessings of Lord Matsya to achieve perfection, but also he was given the task of becoming the next Manu in the following Manvantara. So he became the Manu at that time. He took birth as the son of Vivashwan, the sun god. And he was known as Sradadeva, but also as Vaishashatu Manu. So he became the Manu. So Maharaj Parikshit at the end of the 8th canto asked Srila Sukadeva Goswami to speak about the dynasties coming from King Satyavata as Vaishashatamanu. And this whole narration comes of, all these different descendants that originally come from the sun god. So this is the sun dynasty in which, great personalities appear, and that is going to be concluding with the appearance of Lord Ramachandra in this dynasty of the sun god, Vivashwan. So he narrated the histories of this king, can't remember right now his name, so many names, but the king who was it? One of the direct sons of Vaishashatamanu had desired a progeny, a prince, but he got a girl, right? Remember that? And he accepted the girl, but inside he was dissatisfied. So by the power of Vashishta Muni, he was able to become a boy. So he became a prince. So he became this very powerful prince. And as a prince, then he became a ruler. And then as a ruler, he was wandering one time in this forest that it was the place of Lord Shiva and Parvati, Mother Parvati. And when they entered this forest, all of a sudden they all became beautiful women. So it was the king with his army, all of a sudden, poof, became beautiful princes and maidens like that. So they will become very distressed. You can imagine, these powerful kshatriyas, becoming beautiful girls, And, and the story goes on that the reason that forests have that type of curse is because once, Lord Shiva gave Parvati the promise that one time their intimate affairs were interrupted by sages, and Parvati was very disturbed about that. So he promised that anyone who enters this forest will become a woman. So anyway, there is now this powerful king now as a woman, and in a bewilderment he was wandering around, and then he got married with another king, and then he was very distressed at the same time. So again, Vashishta, I think it was Vashishta, make him, by praying to Lord Shiva, he was given the boon that he can regain his maleness once, every other month. So he ruled for his whole life, 1 month as a king, as a man, and 1 month he become a woman. So anyway, this was very, very far out situation of this king. And then the generations follow, there was a narration of this king, actually also missing the name, that he had sons, and when he retired, then one of the sons was in the Gurukula, and he remained in a longer time, extra time in the Gurukula. And when he came back, then the other 2 sons, the brothers, thinking that he was not going to be, he just was not going to come back, but they took all the kingdom, all the wealth of the father. They divided all the wealth among the 2 of them, and they left this brother with nothing. So, and basically they told him, okay, so we're taking everything, and what you receive from our father is that you take care of our father in his, retired life and old age. So anyway, long story goes, this king, by the instruction of his father, and also by the blessings, I believe, of Lord Shiva at that time also, he regained great wealth, but was very pure in heart. And from him, his son became, the celebrated Ambarish Maharaj, that we just finished the story of Ambarish Maharaj. So now Sukadev Goswami continue. So now the narration of all the generations that came after Maharaj Ambarish. And in this situation is the narration of this King Ritatara, who was a ruler of the earth at that time, but he had no sons. So this is something that we hear, that in different parts in the scriptures, this is narrated, that when the need is there circumstantially, that a great dynasty don't have descendants to actually continue the dynasty, by the request of the king or the request of those who are ruling, then a Brahmana comes, or a pure Brahmana comes and begets children, for continuing the dynasty, the ruling dynasty. Prabhupada explains the principle of that although they will be the sons of these pure brahmanas, the descendants, nevertheless, because it's the queen, then they become actually the descendants of the king. And Prabhupada give the analogy of, or is it the analogy? I always get confused, but the analogy of the landowner or landholder, and then contracting someone to actually plow the fields and grow, and grow the fields, but the harvest belongs to the owner of the land. So in this way, King Ritatharas have descendants for the kingdom. There was a similar instance that is very famous that we hear from the Mahabharata, and is which is at the center of the Mahabharata, story. The whole, Mahabharata is how the birth of Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura was a similar situation. And in that narration, the Shantanu was the great king, descended from the dynasty of Bharat Maharaj, and the king of the world, the emperor of the world. And Shantanu had a powerful son whose name was, what was the name of Bhishma before taking the vow? Anyone remember? No, Bhishma became when he took the vow, but before was, No. Anyway, Bhishma, he was the father of Bhishma. He's married with Ganga, and the narration goes. But then Ganga, according to what they have agreed, King Shantanu and Ganga Devi, she left Shantanu, and Shantanu was without a queen. And in the process, one time of roaming around his kingdom, he saw this very beautiful, beautiful lady whose name was Satyavati. And he wanted to marry Satyavati, who was the prince or the daughter of the king of the fishermen. It was a lower class fisherman, And the story goes that Satyavati, King Shantanu wanted to marry. He requested from the father, and the father of Satyavati said, I can only marry you, allow you to marry my daughter, if the descendants of my daughter becomes the successor rulers of this earth. But King Shantanu has already established Bhishma, before his name was, but he was established his son Bhishma Dev as the successor prince and the successor ruler. So in order to facilitate this, then Bhishma, to fulfill the desires of his father, he took the vow that he will never marry, and not only that, he won't accept the kingdom. He will always serve. His position is to always protect. He took this solemn vow, always protect whoever was sitting in the throne of Hastinapuri. And that gives an explanation why Bhishma was, by his vows and his religious duties, to fight on the side of the Kurus, because promised that. He made that vow. He made that vow. He won't beget children. He will remain celibate for the rest of his life. And that's when he got the name Bhishma. Bhishma means, like this awesome vow. So, Satyavati and King Santanu have two sons. One of them was Vichitravidya. The other one, I forgot his name too. But one of the sons died circumstantially. Vichitravidya, he was married to these two princes, Ambika and Ambalika. And the story goes, he became mortally sick and he died, also circumstantially. And then there's a situation that he was the only descendant of Kishantanu, Vichitravidya, and Bhishma. Those was the only two descendants of King Shantanu. Bhishma was out of the picture because he made a vow. He won't beget children, so he won't get married. Vichitravidya was the sole descendant of Maharaj Shantanu, and then he died, and there was no children, there was no descendants. So Satyavati had this big difficulty to resolve. So, in consultation with all the elders of the kingdom, she approached Bhishmadev and asked him, you have to beget children from the womb of Ambika and Ambalika. Because although you took this vow for my sake, nevertheless, the service to the ancestral home, you have to preserve it. You have to preserve it. It's a much greater duty, because what is going to happen that the descendants will be finished. No more dynasty. Who's going to rule? What's going to happen to the kingdom of earth? So you have to forsake your vow and then do this much greater duty. But Bhishma he was not, listening to that. He said, dear mother, that he made this vow and he will maintain this vow. He says something like, the earth may lose its scent, the water may lose its moisture, the sun may lose his greatness, the fire may lose heat, the moon may lose, the cooling rays, but I will not give up my vows. So, Satyavati insisted, but Bhishmadev didn't give up. But Bhishmadev told him, but listen to me, and then you can tell me after what I'm going to tell you. Then you can tell me what you think, or what is your conclusion. So Bhishmadev told her of the solution. The solution will be, it comes, it's like all these great personalities, you have to back up. That's me. Just shut it down. It's on the side pocket. I was in. Oh yes, Bhishmadev then explains that Lord Parshuram, during the time of Lord Parshuram, he killed this king, Kartavirya Arjuna, because this king killed his father. But he was so angry at the condition of the Kshatriya race that he actually eliminated 21 generations of Kshatriyas. He basically eliminated the whole Kshatriya race. Everyone out. He chopped them down. 21 generations. Then one may ask, then what happened then? How things were managed. And Lord Parshuram explained that all the queens of all the slain Kshatriyas, they approached the great rishis of that time to beget progeny, to continue, the rulings of different kingdoms. And thus, Bhishmadev said to Satyavati that you can call on a pure Brahmana to come and beget very qualified children that can maintain the dynasty of the Kurus. And Satyavati was very happy to hear this, yes. And then she said to Bhishmadev, actually, your brother, you have a brother you don't know that I had before getting married to King Shantanu, your father, I had a son that is the great, powerful and pure Brahmana, Vyasadeva. And then she told the story how that happened. So she said that his father, the king of the fishermen, part of the way they maintained their family was that he has a boat, and Satyavati used to take that boat and take all the pilgrims across the Jamuna River and, across the river with the boat. Satyavati was this extremely exquisite, beautiful woman, but she had some difficulty that the smell of her body was the smell of fish. And I don't know if you ever pass, we used to go through Canal Street in New York, and it's disgusting. The smell of fish is very bad. Very bad. Like right now, my stomach is going a little upset just to remember. So she had that type of smell in her body. It was very bad. And once a great sage, Parasara Muni, came to cross the river, and when he saw the beauty and the qualities of Satyavati, he decided she is a qualified person for me to beget a great person, to beget children that will be a great person. So he approached her with this request. So the girl was very taken aback. She was very afraid that, how she's going to do this. What her father will be very upset. But she was also afraid that the sage will curse her. So she complied. And the sage, understanding her, Parasara Muni explained, don't worry. There won't be, she won't lose her virginity and her purity. And this great personality will, appear from this connection. So the sage created this fog, and then the great Vyasadeva came, and he came, he came out like an adult. So he manifested, a full, adulthood. He didn't become like a, crying baby like that. So, Vyasadeva, the son of Satyavati and Parashar Muni, then Satyavati, in remembering that, she said, yes, this is the solution. I will call upon Vyasadeva. So just by thinking on Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva appeared. And Vyasadeva has been performing great, severe austerities. So in performing severe austerities, his condition, his physical appearance was, very emancipated, with matted locks, not clean, it was, basically he was performing meditation for long years. So, the appearance was very ugly. The smell was not very good. They don't bathe, they don't do, they just sit down in meditation. The nails, you've seen pictures of yogis like that. Like very shocking. So he appeared and he asked his mother, how can I serve you? He's ready to do anything she desired. And then she explained the situation, and he said, yes, he will do. But let the two princes, the two queens, perform a whole year of preparing themselves and of performing all these rituals that he's going to instruct. And after 1 year, he will come and beget the children. Satyavati was too anxious. She said, no, we cannot wait a year. The citizens have no king or no one to actually understanding that is going to continue the dynasty. So we don't want this unrest. We need something now. We need something, happening now. And Vyasadeva said, okay, but you have to prepare these two queens that, to go through the austerity to, do this with me in this condition. The ugliness, the smell, the whole thing. And so Satyavati, yes. So, she came and called for Ambika and told her that one of the brothers of Vichitravirya will come to beget children, from you. So be prepared. Make sure you do everything, like that. So instructed the girl. She is thinking, oh, Bhishmadev, like that, So, but as Vyasadeva entered, she was shocked and she closed her eyes, and by the scary features of Vyasadeva, she closed her eyes and went to the whole process with Vyasadeva, like not looking at all. So Vyasadeva came out of her chambers, and Satyavati, how did it go? Is we're gonna get, the king that is coming? And then Vyasadeva say, yes, the son of Ambika will be as powerful as 10,000 elephants. He will be a great, powerful warrior, but he will be blind. Blind? How can a king be blind? How can he protect his? So no. You go again, but I call the other one, Ambalika. So then this time she goes and prepare Ambalika. Don't do like your sister. Don't close your eyes. Make sure that you're serving well, like this. So this queen was, you can imagine, and then then enters Vyasadeva, and she was expecting something, but she got so scared to see Vyasadeva that she didn't close her eyes, but she was completely pale and just scared. So her mental condition was not very stable when this happened. She was scared. So the conception came, and Satyavati asked what happened, and then yes, he will be a great, great, powerful king, but his complexion will be very, very pale, and sometimes his emotions won't be extremely stable. So, okay, call the Ambika again, and then this time, told her, don't do, make sure that this is properly done, Then Ambika didn't want to deal with that, so she sent her maiden servant. So she sent a servant girl, and this servant girl was very properly stable. She's served Vyasadeva very nicely and went to the whole process. And when Satyavati asked, so then is this now all right? This is the, is going to be the proper successor. Then Vyasadeva say he will be like religious personified. But because he was beget in the womb of a Sudra, he will be considered, a Sudra. So that was Vidura. So Dhritarashtra, the blind, Pandu became the king, and Vidura became the great Vidura, the celebrated Vidura that came, but he didn't have access to the kingdom. So this is some of those situations in which, this principle of begetting children from a greater personality sometimes is required in these Vedic times. Any comment or questions? Giridhari Prabhu. Yeah. Turn it on the side.
Hare Krishna. Is it that this process is not recommended in Kali Yuga, right?
Yeah, it won't be. It won't be very well seen, like that. Yes, yes. It's Vedic times. You need things. I mean, my understanding is like, you need the support of Vedic culture. Just like in Kali Yuga, there is no permissions for these big animal sacrifices. Because there's no proper, brahmanas who can chant perfectly like that, Vedic mantras. So similar. There's so many things that during Vedic time the culture was allowed. The culture at the end, you see, these are. If you're thinking about it, these are great kings, and the principles on this, the culture of the Kshatriyas were that duty was greater than anything. Personal stuff. You have to perform your duties. And the duty of the king is to have a successor. There's so many situations in which the kings sometimes, when they didn't have the successor, they become anxious. And then the sages or the brahmanas will help in the situation sometimes. Like Maharaj, the father of Lord Ram, is Dasharath Maharaj. He approached, Vashishta Muni, and he gave, the sweet rice. And We have Narada Muni helping Kinchitraketu, and like that. These things happen. They were powerful like that. But the principle was that they have to perform that duty. That was part of their, very, very important part of the king. So if it was required, then they will contract, someone to do it. They make sure it happens. And you have to be from very qualified brahmanas. But we don't have Vedic culture right now standing on earth. So that's Prabhupada's greatness. He will establish, Vanashram again in the world. That's right? Jai Baladev Prabhu. It's a little button on the side, up.
Hare Krishna. Hare Prabhu, thank you for your class. My I guess comment maybe could expand on it is this whole pastime of hearing the dynasties and hearing stories like somebody is born from the abdomen, or Vyasadeva was born a full adult. Now, if we try to explain this to people in the outside world, especially to scientists, they'd be like, "You guys are crazy." And this reminds me of a conversation I actually had with Bashu Ghosh's son. I really appreciated one point he made. We were essentially comparing science versus religion. Is that even if these stories are true, somebody's born not true. Somebody's born from the abdomen of Vyasadeva was fully adult. But a mother, even when she explains a story to her child, she said the story may or may not be true, but she says, what is the moral of the story? How do you respond in this circumstance? So even though the story may not be true, the principles you could still use, and we could see that. And one point that I really appreciated from Bashu Ghosh's son, his name is Ras Bihari, he actually said, when you compare science, how you could be benefit from science. If you ask the scientists, how do I overcome lust or anger? And they'll usually say, the only thing they can say is what is X equals Y over 2. So even though science applies to some people some of the time, these principles, whether the story is true or not, applies to everyone all the time. So I guess if I was to ask a question is that it's easy to become discouraged when we read these Bhagavatam, where we hear so many names. But it seems like the essence, maybe you could expand on it, the essence of these teachings, you were explaining in the Vyasadeva story how the different wives reacted to Vyasadev's external body. And there's always seems to be, that's the essence of spirituality, however we react to persons, places, things, and circumstances, we're entangled in. So how do we respond? My question is, how do we respond in the best possible way? Because Krishna says, I'm the ability of man. So how do we maximize our ability to respond with integrity and character? How do we maximize that ability?
Well, the first thing is that we have to have faith in the scriptures. And the scriptures itself are apurusheya. They're perfect. And whatever it says there is the absolute truth. It's not different. So there are certain things that are inconceivable for our experience. But in one sense, one of the things that we can understand is that these scriptures are narrating things that happens all over the universe. It's not just delegated to this little, space, that it means, a little reality here. We're speaking about, a much more expansive reality. And not only that, it goes beyond this cosmic manifestation, it goes also to explain the reality in the spiritual world. So it's a much more greater sense of reality. And how can we explain something with integrity? Although, for me, we have no experience of that expansive reality. Only through the narrations of the Bhagavatam, we got some entrance into that greater reality. Or the Vedas, the narrations in the Vedas, we got entrance into that. But our experience is not like that. However, we can understand. we can understand that, of this greater thing. So in the same way that people in this world take history, of great persons, we didn't meet, Einstein. We didn't know, Lincoln or Da Vinci or, all of these great personalities. We didn't know, but we know their legacy. We know what they did. So, and people become enriched by that. So in the same way that although we haven't experienced certain things and we take the knowledge that is transmitted to us through, traditions and to, studies and science and things like that, in the same way we have to accept that when it becomes this expansive reality that explains, the whole cosmic creation, then we have to take from the authority. And the authority is the Srimad Bhagavatam, is the Vedic scriptures. So we have to have full faith on that. That's the reality. And sometimes Prabhupada says that, that okay, common sense and the scriptures tell us that the stool of a living being is contaminated. You have to take a bath if you come in contact with, stool. And at the same time, it tells you that the stool of the cow is purifying so much that you can use it, in worship sacrifices. So, because the Vedic scripture tells us, then we accept it. And then if you want, if you have the means of experimenting and proving, you will find that there is true. And then with certain things, it has been true. They find out that the qualities of the stool of the cow is antiseptic and is, purifying. So, so like that. Prabhupada also explained about the conch shell. The conch shell is used, for deity worship, but the bones of a living being is also contaminating. So, like things like that, we have to be convinced of the perfect authority and position of the scriptures, and then we convey like that. Now we have to present it. Obviously, when it's beyond my experience, then what do? That's why we quote, the previous acharyas. That we quote, the scriptures, and we may explain. So I have no full realization of these things, but this is what fully realized souls have said about it. So we have to present it like that. Right. Anyway, I stop here. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Haribol.
So you'll be here all day. No, not all day.